Subaru's finally spilled the beans on its next generation 2022 WRX. We have a lot to talk about. Over at the Subaru media page, we have the all-new WRX. We're going to go into all the details today, compare the old design versus the new design, put it on a spreadsheet. And if you're interested in more Subaru updates like this, make sure you're subscribed. I wasn't able to make it out for the WRX reveal, but fingers crossed I can make it out for the driving impressions as well as the STI unveil and driving in the future. But before we get into this article, we're going to go over the images first and compare the styling of the new model compared to the old model. And styling is always subjective. You got to keep this in mind. The grille looks wider on the new model. The headlights are much more compact, definitely more LED strippy, more based off the concept that we saw a few years back compared to the current ones, which I still think the current Subaru lights look pretty good. The hood scoop, the new one is so much wider. It's not soft rounded. It's like this pentagon, similar to what we see down here. I guess it's a hexagon, right? 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, 6 sides hexagon. So we go from this rounded sculpted hood scoop to a really wide hexagonal angular hood scoop. Which one is better? I mean, I prefer this one. It's more nostalgic to me on the old one. But let's keep going through the design here. We have a lot of black plastic to cover the bottom. Yes, we have it over here, but it's broken up by the paint. The fog lights are in about the same spot, but to me, the front end just looks a little bit more aggressive on the outgoing model. Now, when we're looking at the gills here, this is a big difference. So we're getting away from the gills built into the fender, and now it's almost built into this new piece on the car, which is this plastic fender arch or wheel arch that you typically see in a crossover. So it is functional, this little piece here. I guess I can zoom in on it. This piece is functional, but it doesn't look as cool as the outgoing one. So that's, again, my subjective opinion. Now looking at the back, you can see that the fender on the rear of the new one definitely comes out a lot more. It's definitely more sculpted into the body on the outgoing model, where it definitely protrudes, or it seems like it protrudes more on the new model. And I'm not gonna lie, the rear of the old WRX to me looks a lot cleaner, a lot more polished looking. This just looks like a heap of matte black plastic, which doesn't look as premium to me. The taillights, well, they're smaller. Some people are saying that they look like Honda Civic taillights. I mean, I'm not going to say which one looks better. I mean, I almost like the new ones better. They're not as bulky. They're a little bit more sleek, I guess. But they definitely have that kind of like lobster claw that we've come to know a lot of Subarus and Hondas for at this point. And you can see the overall C design is there on the old one. And I guess you can say the C design, or the clamp design, is there with the blinkers being on the inside. However, the spoiler does look to be a little bit more sculpted, a little bit more integral into the trunk lid. Again, there's no hatchback, so sorry to get you guys excited. I don't know. Why did I even mention the hatchback? Now I really wish we had the hatchback. Anyways, I saw one on the streets the other day and I'm like, oh, they look so good. Anyways, let's keep going into the design. And I just feel like this piece right here looks way more cheap and afterthought-y compared to the outgoing model with the, I guess, the side gill. So what do you guys think of the looks? Do you think they look more premium? Do you think it looks more off-roady? Well, I guess it looks more off-roady because of all the black plastic on the fender. So it looks like this vehicle is definitely more tailored just from the looks to be more off-road focused, which, I mean, I don't know how many WRX people take their WRXs off-road, but I guess that's where Subaru wants to direct the WRX going forward. Okay, now we're going to get into the press release. 5th generation rally bred icon. Only 271 horsepower from the FA24. This is the same engine that I just tested in the Subaru Ascent, and I like the engine, don't like the CVT. They have improved the CVT here though. They're saying it's called the Subaru Performance Transmission, has faster up and down shifts, but it's still CVT. And if they can't fix the launching of that CVT, it's an easy pass. And the 271 horsepower, I mean, that's just a smidgen over. Some are saying 11 horsepower more than the outgoing 2-liter. When I looked it up, I thought the WRX had 268 horsepower. So, I mean, only 3 horsepower more from 0.4 liter increase in displacement. Something doesn't seem right here. The torque is still the exact same at 258. Just fact checking. Yes, we'll get in the spreadsheet in a little bit to compare against its rivals. But yeah, the torque is exactly the same at 258 pound-feet of torque. And I thought maybe it's available lower down in the rev range, but it looks like it's available starting at 2,000 RPM. Maybe it lasts a little bit longer at peak torque in the rev range with this 2.4 liter. But to me, this 2.4 liter is not about increase in performance. It's all about increase or decrease in emissions. I've been seeing it a lot in the motorcycle world where they've been increasing the displacement of the engine and changing it in order to reduce emissions. So that's what I feel like is going on with this 2.4 liter compared to the outgoing 2 liter. It's under stressed a little bit more, and therefore as a result, it doesn't produce the same emissions as the outgoing 2 liter. Just my hypothesis though. We have a new tablet style, high definition 11.6 inch screen. We want to take a look at it though real quick. And it's massive, vertically styled. I love the fact that we still have a tuning knob, a volume knob. Climate controls down here integrated into the touchscreen at the bottom, but you can still put it on auto and adjust by the temperature selection. Your hazards here. I love the vertical vents. And just going from there, small MID, it looks like the 4-inch that we see in a lot of Asian products. Tachometer, speedometer, still analog. I'm okay with that. WRX on the steering wheel. Steering wheel I've always liked on the WRXs. Here's the manual shifter here. Looks to be nearly identical. A couple of chargers here. They have chargers in the back as well. No vents in the back from what I've seen. But getting back to the article here, it's on the new Subaru Global platform. That should allow the vehicle to be cheaper to manufacture. It should be quieter, a little bit more stiff, a little bit more lightweight in theory. We have dual pinion electric power steering, which provides quicker response and improved steering feel. That sounds good to me. New GT trim adds drive mode select electronically controlled dampers and exclusive exterior and interior accents. The problem is with this new GT trim is that, well, it's the top of the line, right? But it's only available with the new automatic CVT Subaru Performance transmission. You cannot get adaptive dampers from the sounds of it on the manual transmission. And that's one of the things I always wanted or desired out of the WRX was a softer suspension, because most of the time you don't need it to be stiff as hell. Okay, so I love the fact that they're adding performance dampers where you can soften them for comfort, and then you can also turn them to sport mode. Unfortunately, I can't have my cake and eat it too. I can either choose the stiff standard suspension with the manual transmission, or I could elect and spend more money for the adaptive dampers, but it saps the entire fun out of the car with the CVT. Even if the CVT is better, I would never pick it. This car is for enthusiasts, and I want to interact with the car on every single level. I want 3 pedals, and I want to roll my own gears, and I would like to have a softer suspension with adaptive dampers, but I can't have it all in this new WRX. But going back to the engine here, again, 271 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque, which is very similar to the outgoing model. They're saying that the new engine, along with its turbocharger, equipped with electronically controlled wastegate and air bypass valves, improves responsiveness and acceleration. If we take a look at what Subaru and Toyota were able to do, going from the 2-liter boxer engine that's in the outgoing BRZ and 8.6 and how it is in the new BRZ and GR86. Yes, they increase the displacement, but it's so smooth. It's very, very smooth. It's sewing machine smooth compared to the outgoing model. So I'm expecting this to be a smoother and a more responsive engine, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily that much faster. But emissions should be lower, right? Of course, it's going to have all-wheel drive and active torque vectoring. And the CVT has 30% faster upshifts, second to third. You got to keep in mind those are simulated gears, and 50% faster downshifts from third to second. The automatic transmission, CVT, incorporates adaptive shift control that can quickly respond to perform rev matching downshifts under braking, maintain the ideal ratio through the corners, and respond faster on the corner exit. There's no doubt that the CVT is going to be faster than the manual transmission. It's just not as fun. Total ratio coverage range has been enlarged and lowered, and lower fixed gear ratios have been revised to improve acceleration and response. So they have 3 different drive settings for the SI Drive Performance Management System, and there are 8 speeds for this CVT performance transmission, which can be fiddled with the paddle shifters on the steering wheel. You can get an available external transmission fluid cooler, which improves durability and capability under demanding conditions. So, I mean, if you plan on pushing this thing to its limits on a track or even in off-road settings, absolutely get this available external transmission fluid cooler. The SGP, or the new platform, increased chassis stiffness, which I expected, lower center of gravity, height, which is interesting because when you look at the new WRX, it looks like it has a higher ride height. Maybe it's just because of all the plastic cladding they put on the wheel arches and on the bottom of the vehicle that it looks like it's higher. But due to the nature of this new SGP, the center of gravity is lower. So that's really cool. 28% increase in torsional rigidity, 75% increase in suspension mounting point rigidity. There's a longer suspension stroke, which increases vehicle stability and lateral grip on uneven surfaces. Again, my feeling that they're pushing more this vehicle for off-road usage. And even though the center of gravity is lower, they're saying there's a longer suspension stroke. So the ride height actually might be a little bit higher on this new WRX. The rear stabilizer bar is now mounted directly to the body versus the old one, which was a subframe. Now operates more efficiently and contributes to a roll rate reduction when cornering. Future Kirk coming here, forgot to totally go over the spreadsheet. So here we are at the spreadsheet. I threw in the WRX here, the new WRX, and power-wise, it's not much different than the old WRX as we know. So looking at what we have coming up here, some of these are already out. I have the GR Yaris over here just kind of as base, but we don't get it here in the United States. The GR Corolla should be coming end of 2022. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And we still don't know when the new WRX will be available. We don't know how much it'll cost. So I'm expecting spring of 2022 for the 2022 WRX, and pricing to be very similar to where the current model is. So of course, all-wheel drive 0 to 60 should be nearly identical as the outgoing model. So 4.8 seconds, 0 to 60. Power figures just a hair more on horsepower and identical in pound-feet of torque. So when we're looking at the competition here, I mean, there's a lot going on. The Civic Type R, we should be getting a new one by the end of probably 2023. But until then, I expect this Civic Type R to be in production for another year or so. The GR Corolla, which hasn't been confirmed yet officially from Toyota, but if it doesn't come out, like, that would be one of the biggest shockers in the automotive industry, because I've heard from good sources that it's coming out, and roughly these numbers are fairly accurate. So just keep in mind that it could be a little bit less because the GR Yaris power number is a little bit less, but I have been told they've been beefed up for this new GR Corolla. And these are the numbers that are coming out of Japan. Elantra N, that's coming out at the end of this year or early next year with this 2-liter turbo, 276 horsepower, 289 pound-feet of torque. This vehicle's Achilles heel is going to be that it's front-wheel drive only, but it looks really, really good from what we've seen so far. Can't wait to drive it. Man, the only N car I've driven so far was a Kona N, and that thing was just insane. Mazda 3 Turbo. Not nearly as, it's definitely like the gentleman of this group. The rest of them are all pretty hooliganish boy racer cars. And the Mazda 3 Turbo is definitely like the sophisticated, sporty gentleman's all-wheel drive hatchback car. Definitely one of the better looking cars of all these up here, but doesn't really fit in this segment. It's not quite as quick in some ways, and it doesn't have a manual transmission. If it did, man, can you imagine if the Mazda 3 Turbo was manual? That would be pretty badass. It would definitely eat into the sales of the WRX. New GTI, 241 horsepower, 273 pound-feet of torque. I mean, this thing is going to be pretty fun, and it's a hatchback. I've always loved the style of the GTIs. And then the new Golf R, but this is going to be on another price tier. And it's hard to say. I mean, we've heard really aggressive pricing with a GR Corolla, but I mean, these are going to be probably hand built at the Motomachi plant where they hand built the Lexus LFA. You know, I'm probably expecting 40K out of the GR Corolla. So it's almost in another price tier compared to a lot of these, but they need to be at or below the Civic Type R in my opinion. But anyways, guys, let's get back to past Kirk and finish up today's video. And there's more details in the press release talking about the exterior and interior design. That just doesn't interest me a whole lot because I can see it for myself and talk about it. So what do I think about the new WRX? Well, without driving it, it's hard to say. I mean, the engine is bigger, but it's roughly the same output. I know it's going to be smoother. It should be a little bit more fuel efficient. I know that's an oxymoron since it's a larger displacement, but since it's a all new engine, it should be definitely more fuel efficient. But this car isn't about efficiency. It's about performance. And you know, it's going to be a great performing car for what it is. It's just so similar to the outgoing model in terms of specs, and the looks are subjective. I think the old one looks better. It looks more polished, a little bit more premium as well, because it doesn't have a bunch of plastic cladded all over it. So it's hard to say. I really want to drive it, and I know the interior is going to be better in terms of when you're driving. You're not going to hear as much. It should be a little bit more comfortable, and it's going to handle imperfections in the road a little bit better since it's on the new Subaru global platform. But until I can drive it, I guess the jury's out. Other than I do think the old one looks better. And again, looks are subjective, and I haven't seen this model in person, but just from what I've seen, the old one, especially with the gills and the paint matched bumper instead of the heavily plastic bumper and the new gills that are in the plastic wheel arch, it just doesn't look as high priced and premium as the outgoing model. But there are some things about the new one that looks a little bit better. I think the taillights look a little bit better. The headlights a little bit more sharp, even though I do like the old headlights, and I do like the old hood scoop better. But anyways, I'm going to end it there. I'm sure you guys have a lot of opinions about the new WRX, good, bad, in between. I want to hear it all. See you down there, and I can't wait to drive it because I know I'll probably be very impressed with the mechanics of the new one. But anyways, guys, I'm going to end it there. If you enjoyed it, smash the like button, subscribe for more Subaru updates like this. Catch you in the next one. Peace out.